Good morning. Hey, how you doing? It's Jim. It's been a while, hasn't it? But today I'm making a video, and every so often I get requests from people sort of outside of the usual run of the mill. Do a reaction to this, do a reaction to the other, blah 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 blah. And today I'm doing something which is completely different from sort of anything I've done before, but actually I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be quite a lot of fun. So I was approached by a guy called Mark from Black Lake production company, who I think they're a small record label, but they also do a lot of design work and so on and so forth. They've done a lot of work for Haken, for example, and work with Inside Out Music, Leprous, to name a few. But they've made a film. It's a short documentary, which they'd like me, or suggested it'd be really fun for me to sort of have a look at and to review and to sort of share on the channel. So that's what I'm going to do. I think it requires something of a pinch of salt, a sort of a healthy dose of tongue-in-cheek, and an appreciation of Spinal Tap. It's called Jazz Sabbath. And I kind of get what it's going to be about. So what I'm going to try and do is make this, or just pretend this is a genuine thing. So I know it's not, and it's going to be quite funny. But I think it's an origins documentary, an origin story of Black Sabbath, where they got all their ideas from, along the same lines of I don't know, the reggae pioneers Dred Zeppelin, or country innovators Stetson Wolf, and what was the other one I thought of? Barbershop quartet trailblazers, the Roller Tones. But it's not. This is Jazz Sabbath, and I'm going to. I've just literally sort of seen the beginning of this, so I'm going to do it properly now. Let's watch this. So you can share this with this. It's about 15 minutes. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go.
It was the late 60s when I first saw them. Absolutely amazing. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen anything, actually. I was about 9.
For over 5 decades, there's been a gaping hole in the music business.
It's great to have that music back in its rightful place as the progenitor of heavy metal.
We'd hear things about this amazing band out of England.
He was like our window into the rest of the world. He was like our window into true greatness.
Well, I can't believe it's taken on 50 years to see the light of day, this record, this sort of mythical album. It's taken on sort of classic album status.
And they just totally blew my mind. I'd never heard anything like them.
It may not sound heavy metal, but that's what started it all off, not Tony Iommi. Sorry, mate.
I love those guys.
Jazz Sabbath was like our White Album. Milton was our Beatles.
Smooth.
On Friday the 13th, February 1970, a band released their debut album, which was to become one of the most influential albums of all time, encapsulating and inventing a sound that people now know and call heavy metal. Also due for release on that same day was another debut album from a relatively unknown jazz trio tipped to hit the big time with their self-titled album, Jazz Sabbath. Tragically, on Thursday, the 12th of February 1970, pianist, composer, and founding member Milton Keynes was hospitalized after a massive heart attack. And with the fate of his health looking uncertain, the record label pulled the release with immediate effect. Later that year, a fire gutted the record company offices, and the master recording tapes were assumed to have perished in that same fire. In early 2019, the tapes previously thought to be destroyed resurfaced and found their way back to their rightful owner. Reunited with the lost tapes nearly 50 years later, Milton is on a mission to right the wrongs of yesteryear with the re-release of his ill-fated album that he still believes is his rite of passage into the pages of music history. Some might find the truth hard to believe, but through the eyes and perhaps delusional mind of Milton Keynes, the heavy metal band worshipped by millions around the world are in fact nothing more than musical charlatans, thieving the music from a bedridden, hospitalized genius. The similarities, he claims, are unmistakable. I was invited to meet Milton in a West London studio where the remixing was taking place, and I was keen to find out more about this underground legend.
One Direction. I don't know who this is.
Milton, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Do you think plagiarism was rife in the 1970s?
Oh, man, there were some bands out there. It was more blatant than others, I would say. But, I mean, the one particular band that stole all our music, stole our identity, if you will, you know, it was pretty blatant.
Paul Gauguin said, art is either revolution or plagiarism. How true those words are.
Well, in case you don't know, I was in Black Sabbath.
I mean, that one song, Rat Salad, you can't tell me that wasn't a complete rip-off. And I think one of the things that was so upsetting is the band was so similar to us. Well, I mean, they had a singer and a guitar player, which we didn't have either of those. But
you were quite well known in the late 60s on the live circuit. Where did you used to play?
Yeah, I mean, we would play everywhere, really. As many places as we could.
Hello.
We used to do down in London, obviously, the 100 Club, the 606, Ronnie's, of course, Ronnie Scott's, and a few of the more, you know, obscure places. Do the Pig and Two Flutes in Willesden, Lizzie McGuire's Plastic Hedge Monkey Club. To be honest, we only did that once. It wasn't very good. We used to play the club in the back room of a florist. That was a good club there called Heavy Petal, where Matt Glover from Blueprint Management first saw us.
I don't remember managing them.
The youngest of two brothers to parents George and Mildred, he showed a keen interest in music from an early age. I wanted to find out more about his relationship with his parents and brother to try and understand what drives him musically and emotionally. You have an elder brother, is that right?
That's right, yeah, I do. David, yeah.
Was David musical?
No. He was a bit of a loser, really, a bit of a waster. He kind of bummed around from job to job. He was a pilot for a while for British Airways. He was captain, really. Did that for 4 or 5 years. Then he retrained as a neurosurgeon and went to work at Great Ormond Hospital in London, looking after the kids there. You say it wasn't challenging enough, so he moved out to Swaziland and looked after orphans, donated his salary to UNICEF. And I like to think we're quite similar in a way. We do a lot of work for charity, and I mean I get all my clothes and stuff from Oxfam, which I think counts for something.
I never liked his music. It was just noise.
He was a really annoying child, and even worse when he got older. Now, David was a great pianist.
Well, that song I remember very clearly, staring out the window of my house, and I could see Derek walk past. And Derek was the local odd job man. He used to do the washing and ironing and stuff for the wealthier people of the neighbourhood who were, well, basically too lazy to do it themselves. And he had an armful of clean washing and ironing and walking up my neighbour's driveway, and I came up with these chords.
No, that's great.
So that was it. That was Derek the Ironing Man. But the record company didn't like it, so we shortened it to Derek. They said that was too short, so I then called it Ironing Man. And they said that was a bit too long, so we shortened it to Iron Man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think music would be what it is today without jazz.
One of my friends had a friend who had a friend who had a friend who had a friend in London, and he would go to every gig that Milton played, and he would secretly record it. He'd send us the tapes. We'd get together in a room and we'd just listen and listen and listen, memorizing every line, every passage, document what the differences were from this show to that show. I mean, we literally memorize it because even the mistakes that he made were far better than any of us ever could have hoped to have dreamed for.
We tried to sign them, but they just weren't interested. So we signed Black Sabbath instead.
Was it the theft of your music or the fact that they went on to become one of the most successful bands of all time that upset you most?
I mean, I think a tip of the hat to your jazz roots is all it would really take. You know, they didn't acknowledge us. They didn't accept any responsibility for stealing our songs. And I think, you know, it's not about the money. Well, obviously it is about the money as well. It's about the music and the money.
And the money.
So I heard rumours that there was an album, but nobody knew for sure. I think everybody thought, probably a few people hoped, that they were all dead.
I think they were dead before that all surfaced, so...
Is Milton still alive?
Were there any other recordings made back in the late 60s or the early 70s?
Well, yeah, we were recording a second album at the same time down at Morgan Studios in London. We wanted to try and make it a bit different, so we actually called up some famous people.
I've always been into jazz, and when I was younger, Jazz Sabbath were one of the first bands I ever saw.
My grandparents said it was the best live band they've ever seen.
When I was younger, I would hear all these bootleg recordings of Milton playing in the London jazz clubs.
It really got me into jazz, mainly because I thought, I can do better than this shit.
The only one that said yes was Rick Wakeman from the band The Strawbs. He was quite cheap as well, which was handy. He only wanted 4 cans of Stella and a box of Havana cigars. And it was good to get someone that had like a name in the jazz world.
I never really got into jazz, as I always preferred music that had a melody.
I mean, granted, it wasn't a very good name in the jazz world, but it was a name, and so we went with it.
I don't actually remember doing that session.
I tried to put on some catering. I wanted to make him as comfortable as possible when he came in, so I prepared some salads for him, a garden salad, Caesar salad, and a Waldorf salad, if I remember. And what I didn't realise is that he wasn't a vegetarian. I assumed he was. He was so painfully thin, just assumed he was a vegetarian. And came into the studio, he grabbed the Stellas, he drank the Stellas, looked at the food, and he said, well, where's the rest of the food? And I said, Rick, this is all the salad. And he looked at it and looked at me and said, salad? Bloody salad? And that was it. He stormed out. He just stormed out of the studio, and I thought, that's a good name for the album. Salad, bloody salad. That's what we were going to call it, but unfortunately his label at the time, A&M Records, they threatened to sue me if we released it, or indeed spoke of him ever coming into the studio. So that was that.
They were so loud. You know, I mean, we were loud. We had 3 kinds of loud. We had super loud, mega loud, and a hospital loud. But they were just on a different level.
You know, without Milton Keynes, there might not be a piano.
I thought he died. I hadn't heard a thing from him not since the 60s. Man, it was a miserable time. When I got the call from Milton, I don't know how many years later, I just couldn't believe it. I was so happy. I almost fell over. I mean, look, there's people ringing me now. They want me to mix for them. I'm not doing that. I'm focusing on this, what is special, and that's all I'm going to do. I mean, listen to that bass. That's it. It's got everything. It's got character.
That song was originally called Changer, and it was written for 6 accordions. But the record company, they said, it sounds too foreign. So I played it on the piano.
Oh, God.
And it sounded a bit more English, which they preferred. So I changed the title then to what it is now, which is Changes.
Scales? Bollocks! It wasn't iconic, so he played everything in C. It's just we knocked it all out of tune, and everyone thought it was fantastic.
Well, in case you don't know, I was in Black Sabbath for a couple of periods, the late 80s, mid 90s, and...
I mean, when I lost my wife, everything changed for me. My whole world collapsed. Music, life itself changed.
When did your wife pass away?
Oh no, she's not dead. No, she buggered off with a Pilates instructor.
One of the friends of a friend would send us like this British magazine, maybe it was New Music Express or something like that. And that was our biggest insight into what was going on in the life of Milton Keynes. And he wasn't in every issue, but even if it was a little blurb at the bottom, we would just flip and flip till we found that blurb and we just read it over and over again.
So it must have been pretty frustrating for Milton to realise that he could have been one of the founders of metal music today.
Well, I was never really a fan of jazz music. I mean, like most people, I sort of thought jazz was a kind of unfortunate mistake.
Well, in case you don't know, I was in Black Sabbath.
Another really annoying thing is, of course, they stole all our tracks on the first album and stretched them over 4 albums. So their first 4 albums had what we had on 1 album. Potentially they made 4 times as much money as we could have made, which is a bit annoying.
Perhaps he's a genius, whose musical fingerprint on the fabric of history itself has been wiped off before it had begun. Or maybe a fraud who's blatant enough to challenge the very entertainment industry that he claims robbed him of his stardom. Up to you to decide.
A lot of people in there.
That don't look terribly heavy metal, I'm afraid.
No, that's fine.
So, it is actually a genuine thing. Well, they can get it on a tape. Oh, man. That's so funny. That is so funny. There you go. Jazz Sabbath. So, Adam Wakeman, I'm guessing is the son of Rick Wakeman. And hence the ability to sort of get Rick Wakeman in there. That's so funny. I'm absolutely wetting myself in there. So, look, I hope you enjoyed that. I've got to go and listen to this Jazz Sabbath now and actually see what it's like. That was so good. It was so funny. I hope that's brightened your what day is it today? Monday morning. I'll see you guys on the next video, whenever and whatever that is. It may be sooner than you think. Who knows? Take care. Until then, this is Jim over and out.